Hey there, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here tonight. I've been diving deep into the Reddit rabbit hole, and I found some stories that I just had to share. Stories that make you think, stories that make you feel, and stories that just might make you say, wait, what? So let's relax, unwind, and let these Redditors take us on a journey. Story 1. My attempt to recreate Back to the Future from memory. I'm late for school. How I slept through the 200 clocks in the bedroom is beyond me. Why do I have so many clocks? I can't remember anything about the night before. And I'm still dressed. Clearly, I just crashed so hard it took the some Huey Lewis and the news to wake me up. That shit is tight. I ran downstairs to find my lazy-ass sister and brother already at the breakfast table. I think they there. Maybe it was just my mom. It's not clear. One of them said that the pickup truck had been damaged. That fat-ass Biff had smashed it up and was outside trying to explain how it was somehow my dad's fault. Dad just stood there and took it while Biff wrapped his head as usual. That beat-up pickup truck was the key to Jennifer's fine white ass. I was going to get me some on a camping trip this weekend, but not now. So, off to school. No, wait. I think I went to Doc's house. Did I? I think so. Why would I have gone there before school? Nah, maybe later on. So I'm pretty badass on the skateboard, if I say so myself, and hold on to the back of various cars and buses to get to school. After I make it there, I have to break the bad news to Jennifer, and she's really nice about it. So as I'm talking to Jennifer, this asshole teacher whose name I can't remember grabs me by the hair or ear. He calls me McFly, so he can take another pop at my dad when he was at my this school. It's all a bit humiliating, and Christ, that's my dad. Uncalled for. In the afternoon, I go for auditions for whatever, and who do you think is in the judging panel? Only Huey Lewis from the news. No shit. He played it cool, and nobody else knew who he was. I just went along with it, but what are the odds? I play my heart out, and I'm good. I mean really good. Huey could have used this tune, but it's like he's fucking with me. He's like, no, it's a too loud, or something along those lines. I'm so done with the day, but I remember now. Doc called this morning to tell me, do come over after school. I think. So I head over to his place. I mean, that's cool, right? Some old dude inviting a teenager over to his house to hang out in his garage? I'm not quite even sure how this relationship started. When I arrive, Doc shows me this time travel machine. I roll with it as you would. He sets fire to this mock-up of the town with a car that has to reach 88 miles per hour to travel in time. He's going to demonstrate it tonight and needs me to tape it. I mean, why not? I'm going to meet up with this old guy at a mall at midnight and video a demo of his time machine. So at the mall now, and it turns out Doc needs plutonium to run the car. Oh, and he got it from some terrorist group. Did I mention he thinks he's going to travel in time? Yeah. My easy lay this weekend is ruined. Huey Lewis dissed my audition, so why not? Let's do this. I get the video camera on the shoulder and hit record as Doc is explaining everything. Except this pickup, with a fitted machine gun and terrorist manning it, shows up and shoots Doc. They almost shot me, but the gun jams. I see a chance and leap into the car, flooring it. I scream across the mall parking lot, and then I'm somewhere else. I have no idea where, but the mall is gone. It's a dusty old road, and some old billboard is in the way. I'm still wearing my radioactive suit. Did I mention I had that on? No? I did. The car is now dead as fuck, so I push it behind the billboard for now. I'm completely lost. No idea what drugs the old man slipped me this time. Maybe the same as last night, but this is the craziest trip yet. I walk about until I find an old farmhouse. I knock on the door. Now I remember none of that shit about pushing my car behind the billboard happened yet. I actually drove into the farmhouse barn and woke up this farm family. So this crazy old man sees me from a distance. I'm still in the radioactive suit, and he fires a round from his shotgun. I run back into the barn, back into the car, and hit the gas. I blast through that wooden barn door like it's plywood, and fly past the old guy and his family. Another shot, but missed yet again. Third time is a charm. Then I did what I said from the paragraph above, but the car really is dead now. Finally, it's daylight, so I take off my suit and go walking toward where I think town is. Sure enough, I find town. It's the same town, but it's been dressed up to look like the 50s and everyone is playing along. When is this shit going to wear off? Anyway, I forgot about the black mayor candidate, and I bump into him when I walk into a diner. I either meet him first, a day later, or my younger dad next. Dad's getting bullied by a younger Biff. Or about to be, so I trip Biff up and piss him off. Next thing I know, he's chasing me around the town center in 50's car while I'm on a makeshift skateboard. Don't ask. Biff crashes into a manure truck and he and his buddies are covered in cow shit. Now, I'm really disturbed by how much I remember about this movie. I swear, if I go on, I could pretty much finish it no problem. I'm going to have to stop here. Story 2. You know when people say they'd take a bullet for someone? That's how I felt about my best friend, Mel. We'd known each other since the 6th grade. I was the awkward kid with braces and a too loud laugh, and she was the cool, artsy girl who once dyed her hair blue with Kool-Aid in middle school and somehow didn't get suspended. We were inseparable. Sleepovers, inside jokes, matching Halloween costumes, even into college. I was her maid of honor. She was supposed to be mine someday. You get the idea. Then, about 8 months ago, she just disappeared. No big fight, no passive-aggressive texts, just nothing. Like she got raptured or something. At first, I thought maybe she was just overwhelmed. She and her husband had just bought a fixer-upper house, and she was starting a new job at a local marketing firm. I gave it a week, then another. I texted her no response. Called straight to voicemail. Instagram stories? Nada. Even her Spotify activity was radio silent. I know, I sound stalkerish, but when your best friend vanishes, you notice stuff. After a month, I started to panic. I drove to her house one Saturday morning. Her car was in the driveway. Her husband's car was gone. I knocked, rang the bell, texted, even yelled her name through the door like a total lunatic. No answer. I messaged her husband, let's call him Jake, in Facebook. Something simple like, "Hey, is everything okay with Mel? I haven't heard from her in weeks." He replied within an hour. "Hey, she's okay, just going through some stuff. She needs space right now." That's it. No, "She'll call you soon." No, "Thanks for checking." Just space. I sat on that reply for days, trying to make it make sense. Mel had never been the needs space type. We told each other everything. Like, everything. When I had that UTI last year and cried on the bathroom floor, she brought cranberry juice and gummy worms. When her mom got diagnosed with breast cancer, I drove 6 hours to be there the next day. So what kind of stuff was she going through that I didn't know about? That's when I started digging, and that's when the weirdness started. So at this point, I'm stuck between she's just taking time for herself and maybe she joined a cult. But my gut wouldn't let it go. I knew something was off. I started casually asking our mutual friends if they'd heard from her. Not in a gossipy way, just testing the waters. First person I hit up was Jenna, someone Mel and I went to college with who we used to hang with occasionally. Jenna replies, "Yeah, she liked one of my IG posts a few days ago." Excuse me? So she was online, just not responding to me. I ask, "Have you talked to her?" Jenna's like, "Nah, not really. Just the usual social stuff. Why?" I tell her briefly that Mel's been totally unresponsive to me, and Jenna hits me with, maybe she's just busy? Or maybe she feels like she's outgrown some friendships? That hit me like a slap. Outgrown? After 12 years? After all the late-night Taco Bell runs and crying over boys on bathroom floors and helping her pick out bridesmaid dresses? I brushed it off, thinking Jenna didn't really know us like that. But the more people I talked to, coworkers, book club girls, people from our gym, the more I realized something. They all thought she was around. She was liking things, occasionally commenting, but not really talking to anyone in depth. And every time I mentioned being cut off, people gave me the same weird, half-assed response. Maybe she just needs space. Maybe she's going through something personal. Maybe it's not about you. That one stung. Not because it was mean, but because it was starting to feel true. What if I had done something? I did what any spiraling millennial would do. I scrolled back through our last 6 months of texts, rereading every word. We hadn't fought. If anything, things had been normal. Our last convo was literally about her sending me a TikTok of a dog that looked like Danny DeVito. I started writing a letter, like a real handwritten letter. Because I figured if she won't answer her phone, maybe something more personal would break through. I poured my heart into Idoct about how I missed her, how I was worried, how I'd always be there for her no matter what. I even slipped in a tiny inside joke at the end. P.S. Remember the cursed burrito in Vegas? Still can't eat Chipotle. 2 days after I mailed it, I got a DM on Instagram from a name I didn't recognize. No profile picture, 0 posts, totally blank account. The message just said, "Stop asking about Mel." no punctuation, no explanation. And that's when I knew I wasn't just being ghosted. Something really messed up was going on. That anonymous DM haunted me for days. I kept checking the profile, hoping it would update or give me something, but it stayed blank. No followers, no posts, no bio. Just a digital brick wall with a creepy message. At this point, I was equal parts worried and pissed. I wasn't trying to stalk Mel, I just wanted to know she was okay. But this message made it feel like I was getting close to something someone didn't want me to find out. So I did what any normal person with anxiety and way too much free time would do. I went full detective mode. I started with her Instagram. She hadn't posted in a while, but I checked her tagged photos, something I hadn't thought to do before. Most were old, harmless stuff, until I saw a new tag. It was from a girl I didn't know, some influencer-looking chick with 8K followers and a hyper-filtered feed. She tagged Mel in a photo at a wine bar downtown. It was from 2 weeks ago. Mel was in the background, clear as day, laughing, drink in hand, sitting next to someone that definitely wasn't her husband. And before you think I'm overreacting, let me paint this picture. The guy had his hand on her knee, not like a casual friendly touch, but like they were very much a thing. Mel was smiling in that flirty, leaned-in kind of way that I hadn't seen since college. I stared at the photo for a solid minute, zooming in, my heart pounding. That wasn't just going through something. That was cheating. Or at the very least, a hardcore emotional affair. Now, I was really torn. This girl had cut me off cold, but she was still technically married. And Jake, her husband, was always decent to me. Hell, he helped me move into my last apartment. Do I tell him? Do I confront her? Do I just mind my business? I didn't have answers, but I screenshotted everything. The photo, the tags, the influencer's name. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I messaged the girl who posted it. I kept it vague. Hey! Sorry if this is weird, just wondering. How do you know Mel? I haven't seen her in a while and got worried when I saw she was tagged in your post. She saw it, left me on read. 12 hours later, the post was deleted. And then, like clockwork, I got another DM from a brand new blank account. Last warning, stop digging. Still no punctuation. Same tone. Like someone trying way too hard to sound intimidating. I stared at that message, my stomach doing somersaults. This wasn't just a falling out anymore. Mel was hiding something big, and someone really didn't want me to find out what. After that second warning message, I honestly considered dropping the whole thing. Not because I was scared, okay? Maybe a little, but mostly because I was tired. You know that feeling when you're chasing someone emotionally and they just keep running? That's how it felt. Like I was putting in all this effort for someone who had clearly decided I wasn't worth a simple text back. But then my brain would remind me, this isn't just any friend. This is Mel. So I did the worst thing possible for my mental health. I kept digging. I couldn't shake the weird vibe I got from the wine bar photo, so I searched the name of the bar. I figured maybe the influencer chick tagged other people there too. I scrolled through the location tag, hoping to catch another glimpse of Mel or that mystery guy. And I did. Only it wasn't from a few weeks ago, it was from 3 months ago. This time, it was a selfie someone had taken inside the bar. You could barely see Mel in the background, but you could see the guy clearly. And my stomach dropped. I knew him. His name was Brandon, and he used to date me. We weren't together long, just 6 or 7 months. It was years ago, but it ended in the kind of slow burn way where everything just kind of fizzles until one of you ghosts the other. No drama. Just meh. But Mel knew about him. She knew everything. I'd even shown her a pic once because she swore she remembered him from some mutual friend's party. And now? She was all cuddled up with him in wine bars while pretending I didn't exist? I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. The betrayal wasn't even about the guy, it was the secrecy, the ghosting, the anonymous DMs. The way she made me feel like I'd done something wrong while she was out here living her best damn life with a guy I used to date like nothing ever happened. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I called Jake. I know, I probably should have stayed out of it, but I needed answers, and he was the only one even remotely connected to her that I still had access to. He answered after 2 rings. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to ask you something, and I swear I'm not trying to start drama." There was a long pause. Then he said, "You found out, didn't you?" Boom. Just like that. No confusion, no asking, about what? He knew exactly what I meant. I felt my heart race. Found out what? He sighed. A deep, tired, worn-out sigh. That she's been seeing someone? Yeah, I know. I've known for a while. My mouth went dry. So, you guys aren't together anymore? We're separated. Living in the same house until we figure out the logistics. She didn't want anyone to know yet. And the ghosting? I asked. Did she tell you why she cut me off? Jake paused. Then he said something that made me feel physically ill. She said you'd judge her, that you'd make it about you. Make it about me? I couldn't even speak. I just sat there on the phone, feeling every piece of our friendship shatter like glass in slow motion. "She's not the person I thought she was," Jake said finally. "Honestly, I don't know who she is anymore." I didn't either. But I knew one thing now for sure. The person she was hiding from? It wasn't Jake. It was me. After that call with Jake, I couldn't sleep. Like, at all. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, just cycling through every moment I'd shared with Mel over the year Severy inside joke. Every deep talk, every dumb Target run at midnight. I kept thinking, how do you just erase someone like that? The worst part wasn't the Brandon thing, not really. It was that she didn't even give me a chance to be there for Harrer to be mad. She just cut me out and rewrote the story in her head where I was the villain who wouldn't understand. And what hurt the most? She might have been right. I might not have understood. But I would have tried. That next Saturday, I drove to her house again. I know, probably a bad idea. But I had this pit in my stomach that wasn't going to go away until I faced her. I told myself I'd knock, say my piece, and leave. Closure, clean break. Her car was in the driveway again. Jake's wasn't. I walked up, heart pounding, and knocked. No answer. I knocked again louder this time, waited. Then, just as I was about to give up and turn around, the door opened. There she was, Mel. Standing in leggings and an oversized hoodie, hair tied up, looking like she hadn't slept much either. We stared at each other. Neither of us said anything at first. My throat felt tight. My heart was racing. Finally, I blurted, "Seriously? You weren't even gonna tell me?" Her expression didn't even change. Tell you what? I actually laughed like one of those bitter, "Are you kidding me?" laughs. "Mel, I know. About Brandon. About you and Jake being separated. About everything. And you couldn't even send a damn text?" She crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe, eyes scanning me like she was already exhausted. "I didn't owe you an explanation." That felt like a slap. "You didn't know me? Mel, we were best friends for over a decade. You don't think disappearing on me with no warning deserves at least some kind of explanation?" She shrugged. "You would have made it about yourself." That line again. I felt my blood boil. You keep saying that, but what does that even mean? That I care? That I wanted to be there for you? Is that such a terrible thing? She didn't answer. So I kept going, because at this point, I was done being the reasonable one. "You know what hurts the most," I said, voice shaking. "It's not Brandon. I could have lived with that. It's not even that you lied. It's that you didn't think I was safe. You didn't think I'd have your back. You just wrote me off like I was disposable." Mel looked down at her feet. For the first time, she looked ashamed, but only for a second. Then she said quietly, "I didn't know how to tell you. You always had this idea of who I was. I didn't want to watch you lose respect for me." I almost laughed again, but this time it felt more like tears trying to escape. "So instead, you made me feel crazy for missing you, for caring. Do you even realize how much I worried?" "I'm sorry," she said, finally, barely above a whisper. But it didn't feel like enough. And maybe it never would. We stood there in silence, and I realized there was nothing else to say. The damage was done. Maybe we could forgive each other someday, but we couldn't go back. I turned to leave, and she didn't stop me. I didn't cry on the drive home. Not even when I got back to my apartment and sat on the edge of my bed in total silence for 20 minutes. I think I was just numb. Like the emotional version of when your foot falls asleep and you can't tell if it hurts or just doesn't work anymore. Mel didn't chase me. No follow-up text, no email, nothing. I guess I kind of knew she wouldn't. That part of her was gone, the version of her who would have driven across town in pajamas if I texted "bad day" with no context. The girl who once hid in my dorm closet with cupcakes when my ex cheated on me. That Mel died quietly sometime between her new job, her separation, and whatever drew her to Brandon. And honestly, I think I'd been grieving her for a while, without realizing it. Over the next few weeks, I did what you're supposed to do. Blocked the burner accounts, took down the photos, muted her on socials, even though she'd already stopped posting. I told myself I was done. But closure's a funny thing. We treat it like it's something we can find or get from someone else, but it's not. It's just the moment you stop bleeding and start building scar tissue. A couple months later, I ran into Jake at Trader Joe's. It was super awkward. He was holding frozen dumplings. I was holding oat milk, and we both looked like we'd aged 5 years in 2 months. We talked for a bit. He looked lighter, like someone who'd finally exhaled after holding his breath too long. She moved out, he told me. Couple weeks ago. Took the dog too. I asked if he was okay. He said, yeah. Then asked if I was. I said something like, getting there. He nodded like he understood exactly what that meant. Before we went our separate ways, he said something I've thought about a lot since. Some people only show you who they really are when they stop needing you. That hit hard, because I think I always assumed that closeness meant permanence, that if someone loved you once, they always would, but love is fluid. And friendship? Even more so. Sometimes people grow. Sometimes they rot. And sometimes they just slip through your fingers while you're busy holding on to who they used to be. I haven't talked to Mel since that day at her door. No big dramatic goodbye. No reunion, no makeup brunch, no deep heart-to-heart. Just silence. And for the first time, that silence doesn't hurt. I won't lie and say I'm over it. That friendship was 12 years of my life. But I'm healing. I'm learning to let people go without hating them, to mourn what was without chasing it. I still can't eat Chipotle, though. Some trauma runs deep. Story 3. I accidentally joined a cult because I thought it was a book club. So I found this book club through a flyer at my local coffee shop. The design was super minimalist, black and white, with bold letters that said, Seeking Truth, Book Discussion Group, and a quote from some philosopher I'd never heard of. I figured it was one of those deep intellectual groups that discuss heavy stuff like Sapiens or the denial of death. I was trying to read more this year, so I showed up. First red flag, the meeting was in a basement. Not like a cozy basement with bean bags and lamps. This place had concrete walls, one flickering light bulb, and a weird smell that said someone definitely tried to sacrifice a goat here. But I stayed because they had snacks. I'm weak like that. Everyone greeted me with way too much enthusiasm, like cult-level smiles and group hugs. One guy actually said, "Welcome, Seeker." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't a vreesting. We sat in a circle standard book club setup, but instead of discussing a book, they passed around this homemade manuscript called The Path to Ultimate Light. Not written by some obscure India Thurno, this was written by Greg, the guy sitting directly across from me. Greg wore all white and called himself The Vessel. I thought, okay, cool, Greg's self-published. Ambitious. But then he started reading his own teachings out loud like it was scripture, and we were supposed to respond with, "Illuminate us, Vessel Greg." I thought I was being pranked. I legit looked around for hidden cameras. Then came the chant. Yes, a chant. It started slow, like humming, then turned into this weird rhythmic sentence. Truth is light, light is Greg, Greg is us. I was halfway through my second cookie when I realized this was absolutely not a book club. I whispered to the girl next to me, "So, when do we talk about books?" She just stared at me and whispered back, "Books are illusions." I noped out so fast I left my jacket behind. Greg ran after me yelling, "You haven't reached illumination yet." I yelled back, "I just wanted to talk about the alchemist man." Anyway, 3 stars, great cookies, bad cult. Before we move on, let's give ourselves a few seconds to unwind. Feel the weight of your body settling into your chair or wherever you're listening from. Imagine any tension melting away. Listen to the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. There's no rush. Just allow yourself to be present in this moment without any expectations. Just breathe and let the story settle. We'll be right back. Ready to continue? Let's get back to the story. Story 4. So, this all started because I wanted to impress a girl. Classic, I know. I, 25M, work at a tech startup in Austin, and it's one of those places where everyone is trying to be cooler than everyone else. You know the type kombucha on tap, monthly emotional wellness circles, standing desks for everyone, and at least one guy who won't shut up about his ayahuasca trip in Peru. Anyway, there's this girl, let's call her Tessa, who joined our UX team about 2 months ago. She's stunning, smart, has this dry sense of humor that just destroys me every time. I'm talking major workplace crush, like high school level dumb smiling when she walks into the room. The problem? She's really into twins. Yeah, twins. At first, I thought it was a weird joke or kink or something. But then I overheard her telling someone at lunch that she's always found it fascinating, like the psychology of it, the bond, growing up with a literal clone. She said she always wanted to date a twin. There's just something magnetic about that connection, she said. I don't even know what that means, but my brain translated it as, be a twin if you want a shot. So, like any logical, mentally stable adult male, I decided to fabricate a completely fake, identical twin brother. His name? Nathan. Yeah, my name's Ethan. I figured I wouldn't screw up the lie if the names rhymed. I mentioned it casually in the break room one day. Oh yeah, my twin's in Seattle, works in biotech, looks just like me, but he's more extroverted. And it worked. She lit up, asked all these questions. I kept it vague, laughed it off, said he was the cooler twin. And that was supposed to be it. Just a little sprinkle of fiction to make myself more interesting. But then, a week later, Tessa asks if Nathan's ever in town. I panicked. Instead of shutting it down like a normal person, I said, actually, he's flying in next weekend. Family stuff. She asks if she can meet him. For research, she says. I've never hung out with twins before. And this is where the real spiral begins. I should have come clean, said I was joking. But my dumbass ego goes, sure, he'll be around. I'll ask if he wants to meet you. So what do? I become Nathan. I changed clothes. Threw on some old glasses I don't wear anymore, messed up my hair, swapped hoodies, and met Tessa at this downtown bar as Nathan. I used a slightly different voice, talked more confidently, loosened up. And the insane part? She bought it. She kept saying things like, wow, you're so different from Ethan, and you seem way more outgoing. I laughed it off, kept it going for about 2 drinks, and then bailed before I could slip up. I thought that would be it. But no. She texts me later that night, Ethan, saying, your brother's really cool. You two are nothing alike. And I, being a full-on idiot at this point, leaned into it. Over the next few weeks, I switched between being Ethan and Nathan. I'd schedule little run-ins, switch outfits in my car, make up excuses about why the other one couldn't make it. It was like living in a low-budget rom-com and a psychological thriller at the same time. Things got way too real when she said she wanted to go on a real date with Nathan. And that's where I'll stop for now. So, yeah, Tessa wanted to go on a date with Nathan, not Ethan, not the actual me. The fake twin version of me that I invented on the spot and had now given actual personality traits, a fake job, and apparently just enough charm to win her interest. You'd think that would be my cue to fess up, right? But no, I was already in too deep. Somewhere in my brain I thought, just go on one date as Nathan, end it, and go back to normal. Spoiler, that's not what happened. I planned this whole thing out like I was in some kind of covert op. I created a fake number using a texting app so I could message her as Nathan. I built a backstory, went as far as making a dummy LinkedIn profile for him. Yeah, I really did that. His job? Biotech consultant, based in Seattle. Loves climbing, Thai food, and obscure indie bands. Basically, just a cooler, more interesting version of me. We meet up at a cozy rooftop bar. I show up in Nathan mode. Tighter shirt, different watch, glasses, hair slicked back, beard trimmed slightly different. I even made myself walk with a little more swagger. And to my surprise, we clicked. Like, hard. She was relaxed, funny, and kept leaning in close. I was making her laugh. She was twirling her drink straw, touching my arm during stories. I knew those signs. I knew where this was heading. But I couldn't let it. Halfway through the night, I said, I think you should give Ethan more of a chance. He's solid. More than he seems. And she laughed. He's sweet, but I like guys with a little more spark. Like you. That sentence haunted me for days. Because now, I couldn't even talk to her as myself without feeling like I was competing with my own lie. But wait, it gets worse. She kissed me. On the cheek. Quick, but deliberate. Said she had a great time and wanted to do it again. I froze, nodded, smiled, said something lame like, yeah, me too. Then I went home, stared at my ceiling for 3 hours, and questioned every decision I've made since puberty. The next week, she starts texting Nathan more. A lot more. She says she's going to be in Seattle for a UX conference in 2 months and asks if he'll be back by then so they can go together. She's planning long-term with my imaginary brother. And now things get completely deranged. She starts pulling away from Ethan, canceling coffee runs, not sitting next to me during team meetings, not laughing at my jokes. I literally watched myself get friend-zoned by the girl I liked for my alter ego. I tried to ease her back into the idea of me. I told her, as Nathan, that I might be moving abroad for work soon, trying to plant the seed for an exit. She got upset, said she hated that idea, that she'd miss him, that she hadn't felt this connected to someone in a long time. And yeah, I cried. Not proud of it. Alone in my car, just sitting in a Target parking lot eating Twizzlers and spiraling. Then came the absolute nuclear moment. Our company hosted a weekend retreat at this huge ranch resort outside the city. Everyone was invited plus ones allowed. We all got our own cabins. Team building hell. Guess who shows up? Asking where Nathan is. I told her he couldn't make it. Work emergency. She was genuinely bummed. Like quiet and moody all day. Meanwhile, I'm standing next to her, making awkward small talk, pretending it doesn't hurt like hell. But then, after dinner, we're all sitting around this big bonfire, drinks flowing, stories being told, vibes immaculate. She's tipsy. I'm tipsy. And she leans over and says, "Sometimes I wish you were more like your brother." I didn't even know what to say, so I laughed. Like a psycho. awkward, high-pitched, unhinged laugh. People turned to look. And in that moment, I realized this whole thing had snowballed into an emotional hostage situation with me holding the detonator. And I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. So the retreat ends, and I'm emotionally drained. Like, I've been playing 2 versions of myself so hard I don't even know who I am anymore. Am I Ethan, the nice, awkward tech bro? Or Nathan, the charming fake twin I created to catfish my own crush? Anyway, I try to ghost the whole situation. Start pulling back as both Ethan and Nathan. Less texting, delayed replies, excuses. I tell her Nathan's work is sending him to Singapore for an extended project, and that we probably won't see much of him for a while. She seems bummed, but tries to be chill about it. I think I've gotten away with it. Wrong. 2 weeks later, I'm at my desk trying to debug some garbage code, and I get a Slack ping from my manager. Hey, could you swing by the conference room real quick? I walk in, and it's dead silent. My manager is sitting there with Tessa. I swear, my stomach dropped into my socks. My manager says, Tessa came to us with a concern about your brother. My brain goes full DEFCON 1. I'm sweating, heart pounding, trying to keep my face neutral while my insides scream. Apparently, get this, Tessa wanted to invite Nathan to speak on a panel at our upcoming company-hosted Innovation Week. She told the team about how inspiring he is, how he works in biotech, how he'd be a great keynote speaker for the health tech breakout group. So our HR person actually tried to look him up. Found nothing. No Nathan Walker in biotech. No Nathan Walker in Seattle. Not even a trace. They asked me flat out, Ethan, do you have a twin brother? I choked. Couldn't speak. Just sat there blinking like a broken animatronic. Then, in the weakest, quietest voice, I muttered, not exactly. That's when Tessa stood up and walked out of the room. Didn't say a word. Didn't even look at me. My manager let out this long sigh, rubbed her temples and said, You're lucky this isn't a legal issue because you didn't impersonate anyone real. But this is highly inappropriate. We're gonna need to talk about your future here. I got suspended for 2 weeks, unpaid. They made me sign some weird internal document basically saying, yes, I am aware I faked a person and misled a colleague for personal reasons like a total dumbass. Not in those words, but that was the vibe. The worst part? The HR rep told me that Tessa requested to be moved off any projects I was on. I didn't even get to apologize. She blocked me on everything. Slack, text, Instagram, LinkedIn, even Venmo. Like, damn girl, I wasn't gonna charge you for the emotional damage. The next few weeks were brutal. Walking back into the office felt like being the subject of a slow-motion car crash. Everyone had heard something, even if they didn't know the whole story. I got the awkward glances, hushed side conversations, and one guy, bless his heart, just walked up to me and said, Yo, you good, bro? With this look of deep concern like I was coming off a cult retreat. I wish I could say that I learned my lesson, apologized, and everything went back to normal. But nah, that's not how this ends. So after the whole fake twin reveal, I'm pretty much the pariah of the office. People don't say anything directly, but you can feel it. The vibe changed. I went from being that chill back-end guy to, yo, that's the dude who pretended to be his own twin for a girl. To make things worse, no one really knew the full story, just that I did something weird involving a fake sibling and Tessa got caught in the middle, which meant rumors were flying around like confetti in a wind tunnel. And me? I was just trying to survive. Headphones in, eyes on my screen, lunch alone, classic shame spiral. But then, one Friday, around 4 p.m., I'm getting ready to dip early when my coworker Jenna, shout out to Jenna, she's the only real one in this mess, messages me on Slack. Hey, have you seen Tessa's Medium post? I freeze. What Medium post? She sends me the link. The title? Dating a Man Who Doesn't Exist. A tech industry horror story. No names, of course. But I didn't need names. It was me. It was 1000% me. She laid it all out how she fell for someone who turned out to be two people. How she was emotionally manipulated. The lies, the confusion, the feeling of betrayal. And she wrote it beautifully. Like, devastatingly. The kind of writing that makes you hate the main character while still kind of pitying them. She even threw in lines like, he didn't just catfish me, he catfished reality, and he played both roles with the precision of a sociopath and the sadness of someone who doesn't know who he is anymore. I mean, damn. Brutal. But not entirely inaccurate. The post blows up. Not like viral, but enough that people are sharing it on Twitter, LinkedIn, even in some cringy startup Facebook group. Comments pouring in like, this is next level manipulative. I hope she's okay. This is why I have trust issues with men in tech. He probably uses tabs instead of spaces too. I couldn't even defend myself. I mean, how do you reply to a viral essay about how you fake personed someone for weeks? So, I didn't. I stayed quiet, deleted the fake LinkedIn, nuked the texting app, cleaned up every trace of Nathan that existed online. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. HR called me in again, this time to reassess cultural fit. I got fired. Not immediately, but a week later. Official reason? Trust breach and inappropriate interpersonal conduct affecting team cohesion. Whatever, I deserved it. The worst part? I still liked her. Even after everything. That's the pathetic truth. I liked her as Ethan. I liked her as Nathan. And the irony is she never really knew either of them. Because I never gave her the chance. And here's the wildest twist. About a month after the post dropped, I get an email from Tessa. Subject line, closure. She writes this long, incredibly articulate message. Says she's not writing to forgive me, but to tell me she understands. On some level. That she sees now how lonely I must have been to create an entire other person just to feel interesting. That what I did was wrong, but she's not going to carry bitterness around forever. She ends it with, you didn't just lie to me. You lied to yourself. I hope someday you figure out why. I stared at that email for a good hour before replying. I said thank you. I apologized again. Told her she didn't owe me anything, but that I appreciated the honesty. She never replied. And I haven't seen her since. So yeah, that's how I completely wrecked my professional reputation. Got ghosted by someone who thought she was dating me and my imaginary twin, and learned that playing pretend can have very real consequences. So, post-firing, my life was in shambles. I was unemployed, emotionally wrecked, and pretty sure my entire personality had become that guy who faked a twin for a crush. Every time I opened LinkedIn, I felt like the ghost of Nathan was hovering over me whispering, "You did this." But honestly, getting fired was the slap in the face I needed. I moved back home for a bit, like back to my parents' house in suburban Dallas, where my mom still folds my laundry too aggressively. I spent about a month just reflecting, journaling, watching trash reality television, and trying to figure out why the hell I thought any of this was a good idea. And you know what I realized? I wasn't just lonely. I was bored of myself. I felt unremarkable, like I was stuck in this loop of being decent, but never memorable. And when someone finally showed interest in a version of me that wasn't really me, I clung to it like a lifeboat. So I started going to therapy. First time in my life. I walked in thinking the dude would be like, "Yeah, you're a manipulative liar." But instead he said something that hit me hard. "You created a version of yourself you thought someone could love. That tells me less about your dishonesty and more about how little value you see in your true self." Bro, gut punch. Anyway, I spent the next few months rebuilding. Got freelance work, started writing more, got honest with myself. No more pretending to be some cool alter ego. I just leaned into being awkward, geeky Ethan who listens to lo-fi hip-hop and overthinks breakfast choices. Then, about 6 months later, something totally unexpected happened. I matched with someone on Hinge. She was cute. Artist. Big into books. Witty bio that said, "Swipe left if you've ever faked a twin." I genuinely froze. Was she joking? Was that a coincidence? Or was this some savage subtweet of my entire past? I had to know. So I messaged her. "Okay, so weird question, but are you referencing that Medium article that went semi-viral a while ago?" She replies instantly, "Wait, you're him?" My stomach flipped. I was about to unmatch and disappear into the ether, but then she sent a second message. That post was wild, but honestly, it low-key made you sound kind of fascinating. Just maybe don't do it again? We ended up talking for weeks. She said she found the story more sad than awful, said it showed a lot of misplaced effort, but also potential. Her exact words were, "You clearly cared a lot. You just funneled it through a tornado of dumb decisions." We met for coffee. No costumes, no fake glasses, just me. We're not dating now or anything. She moved cities, but we're still friends. She was the first person who looked at the whole mess and said, "Yeah, that was nuts, but you're human." And that helped. Now, almost a year later, I'm at a new job. Smaller company, way less dramatic. I'm honest about who I am, quirks, flaws, awkward pauses, and all. No twin, no act, just Ethan. Every now and then, I still think about Tessa. I don't stalk her or anything, I just hope she's doing okay. Hope she found someone who didn't have to split themselves in half to win her over. And I hope she never writes a part 2. Story 5. That time, I got kicked out of a Zoom funeral because of my cat. So, this happened during peak pandemic times, when everything was still on Zoom meetings, birthdays, baby showers, and yes, funerals. My friend's great aunt had passed away and they invited a bunch of us to attend the service virtually. I didn't know the woman personally, but I wanted to be supportive, so I joined the Zoom call, dressed in black from the waist up, because, you know, Zoom etiquette, and muted myself like a good attendee. Everything was going fine. Sad music, eulogies, a slideshow of pictures that all looked like they were taken with a potato in the 70s. I had my camera on and was trying to look solemn. Real classy stuff. Enter Pickles, my cat. Pickles, for some reason, chose this exact moment to go completely feral. He jumped onto my desk, knocked over my coffee, which spilled dangerously close to my laptop, and then decided the best place to sit was directly in front of my webcam, with his entire butt facing the camera. Like full feline moon? No shame whatsoever. I tried to move him, but in doing so, I must have unmuted myself because the entire call suddenly heard me go, "Pickles, get your butthole out of Grandma's funeral." It was dead silent. On a funeral, Zoom, silent. Then someone, I kid you not, actually started laughing. Like snorting laughing. That set off someone else. And then another person. It spiraled until half the call was trying to mute themselves while wheezing. The priest looked confused. My friend messaged me in all caps, "Dude, wad." I got booted from the Zoom 5 minutes later. Still sent flowers though. And Pickles? He sat on the bouquet like a king. No regrets. Story 6. AITA for refusing to pay my roommate's $300 emotional support avocado therapy bill? So here's the part that'll make you blink twice. My roommate tried to charge me $300 because I laughed at her avocado. Yeah, you read that right. An avocado. Okay, so for context, I, 26F, live with my roommate Carly, 28F, who is generally chill, a little quirky, but not in a harmful way. She's super into wellness, crystals, essential oils, the whole vibe. Cool, whatever. I've lived with her for about 6 months, and we usually get along great. But a few weeks ago, I noticed that she started carrying an avocado around the apartment. Not eating it, just carrying it, like a stress ball. She'd talk to it, sit it next to her during meals. Once, I caught her tucking it in on the couch with a little blanket while she watched the Great British Bake Off. Naturally, I thought this was just some new TikTok self-care trend I hadn't caught up with yet. Then came the moment. One night I had some friends over, and one of them spotted the avocado on the kitchen counter, wearing googly eyes and a tiny knitted beanie. I completely lost it, like ugly laughter. I said, "Carly's got a new roommate, and he's thick with 2 C's. She wasn't home at the time, so I didn't think anything of it. But the next day, she sat me down with this super serious look and said I had deeply disrespected her emotional support avocado, which she named Martin. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She told me that due to my mockery, she had to schedule an emergency therapy session because I triggered a spiral of self-worth issues. And then here's the kicker Venmo requested me $300 to cover the therapy session and damages to Martin's aura. I thought she was trolling, but no. She double texted me asking why I hadn't paid yet. I told her flat out that I'm not paying for her to talk to a therapist about how I laughed at her produce. Now she's telling all our mutual friends that I'm emotionally abusive and mock people's coping mechanisms. So, AITA for not taking the avocado thing seriously and refusing to pay? Edit. Martin is now in the fridge recovering from emotional exhaustion, according to Carly. I wish I were making that up. Story 7. WIBTA for asking my future brother-in-law and his wife to return an expensive gift I gave them after they limit contact with me? I, 35F, have been with my partner Jamie, 33M, for over 6 years, and we're getting married this fall. For most of our relationship, I've had a close bond with his brother Matt, 37M, and Matt's wife, Claire, 39F. We've shared holidays, dinners, hangouts, and I've always done what I could to support them, especially during hard times. I am the primary source of income. About 2 months ago, I bought a new car and offered them my old car, $6,500. It was still in good working condition, and they accepted it, so I fully transferred it over to them. It was a genuine gift from a place of love and support, and I was happy to help because they relied 100% on public transportation. Over the past years, I also gave small things like household items, groceries, things for their kid, all meant kindly, never with any expectations. But now things have shifted. Claire recently initiated a conversation where she said the gifts and emotional support I offered had felt too much overwhelming, etc. And even went as far as saying she felt I was using them to fulfill my own emotional needs. She said she no longer feels comfortable around me and wants to limit contact, i.e., don't text them unless they text first, and slow down. This completely blindsided me. I was never given any indication before that she felt this way. One example Claire brought up really confused me. They have a shy cat, Shadow, who hides whenever we visit. We've never seen her in person, and it became a running joke between me and Jamie that she might not actually exist. A reference to the M&M Christmas commercial. He does exist. Claire said she found that joke offensive, like we were mocking a traumatized animal. That felt like a major overreaction to something lighthearted and affectionate. Now here's the part that's really been weighing on me. Claire and Matt have made it clear they don't want any more gifts or support, and that our relationship needs distance. Gifts for their kid are okay. And they're still happy to keep the car I gave them. Something that came from a time when our relationship was close, warm, and mutual. To be clear, I haven't asked for the car back, but I've been thinking about sending a message, not demanding anything, but pointing out the emotional disconnect, that they've rejected ongoing support, suggested past support was not genuine yet, have no issue keeping such a significant gift. The car. I want to ask them to reflect on what that means. Jamie is supportive of whatever decision I make, but he's worried this might further rupture things with his family. His mom also relies on Matt and Claire for transportation to our wedding, and he's concerned that asking for the car back, or even just bringing it up, might make that more complicated. So, WIBTA for wanting to ask them to reflect on this, or even possibly asking for the car back. Story 8. This happened quite a while ago, but I was reminded of the incident while recounting college shenanigans with some friends. Let's set the stage. About 16 years ago, my dumbass 19-year-old self was driving to a college party on the highway about an hour from where I lived. I was a fairly nervous driver, but I also didn't want to be too late to this party. Was already at least an hour late. It's nighttime. The speed limit is 65 on the 2-lane highway I was on, and the cars in the right lane were going no more than 60 due to a slow-moving cargo truck ahead. So, of course, I switched lanes to pass. I steadily accelerated up to about 74. Really not that fast, but significantly faster than the cars I was passing. And I see a pair of headlights in the rear view rapidly approaching me from behind. My guess was the car was going at least 90. It felt like it was riding my ass within a few seconds of noticing it there, and over the next 10 seconds it flashed its high beams about 4 or 5 times, trying to get me to move over. Based on the title, I think you probably know what came next. As it moved past me on my left, I made direct eye contact with the officer in the driver's seat, middle finger still raised directly at his face. Another reminder. It was dark. I had no idea it was a cop car when my brain decided to hijack my hand. The second the guy processed what just happened, he slammed on his brakes, flipped his lights on, and swerved to the right, directly behind me. As I quickly pulled over to a full stop, the only thing I remember thinking was how profoundly stupid that was and how potent the instant sense of regret was. When I stopped, I lightly slammed my forehead against the steering wheel, and just before I lifted it, I heard his door slam and noticed him charging towards my door. I kept both hands on the wheel, car turned off, window still rolled down. When he got to my window, he didn't bend over to see into my car, just jutted his hand in through the window. His palm was facing upward towards me, in a typical high five gesture. Although, now that I think about it, it was technically more of a low five, since in order to slap his hand, my arm would have to descend down toward his palm. Upon reflection, there is not a single alternate universe in which his gesture was intended to invite a fucking high five huge thing. I guess my sense of rationality was on hiatus that day, because despite any and every indicator pointing to him wanting my license and registration, my brain came to the insane conclusion that he was actually somehow impressed and wanted to celebrate with a high five. Surprise, surprise. He in fact very much did not want a high five. I went for it, and just before I would have made contact, he yanked his hand back. Him. I don't want your fucking hand, license, and registration now. I think this was verbatim, but I may be paraphrasing. Me, nervously stumbling over my words. Oh, yeah, of course. I'm really sorry. I didn't realize it was an officer behind me. I'm an idiot. This was 100% verbatim as I nervously shuffled through my glove box to find my registration. Already had my license in hand. He snatched them out of my hand and briskly walked back to his car. I proceeded to lay my head back on the steering wheel, still in disbelief at my own idiocy. Now, I don't know exactly how much time passed here because of my state of mind, but my estimate is no more than 2 to 3 minutes. I heard his door slam again, so picked my head up and saw him storm back over, my license and registration in hand. He reached my window, and I'm not exaggerating when I say he threw them both directly in my face. Not tossed, lobbed, or dropped, he threw them into my face. At the same time, he said, "Grow the fuck up, kid," and stormed back to his car, slammed his door again, and peeled out. I wanted to apologize again or respond in some way, but I was still in shock. I gathered my license and registration and looked around my car for a ticket, but was pretty sure that wasn't one of the objects that struck me in the face. I made it to the party with a highly entertaining story that I could barely believe myself, which even partially explained my tardiness and amused all who heard it. I found out later that flipping off a cop is definitively not illegal. My 19-year-old self did not know this, and since he was driving so insanely fast, maybe he didn't have his LiDAR on to gauge my actual speed for a speeding ticket. He was probably also just in a hurry to get somewhere, maybe the end of his shift or donut date. In any case, I felt pretty lucky to have come away from this with no real negative repercussions, other than being like 10 minutes later to this party than I would have otherwise. I hope you guys enjoy this as much as my friends that night did.